Administration. Our next budget hearing is from the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. At this point, I'll turn it over to our Chief Economic Equity and Inclusion Officer, Damika Withers.
Thank you, Director Telerik. Good afternoon, Commissioners and County Administration. As introduced, I am Damika Withers, the Chief Economic Equity and Inclusion Officer for Franklin County's Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, joined today by the team of the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. During today's presentation, we will review the purpose of the ODEI office, our recent activities, and desired outcomes. Our why was created partly with the Racial Equity Council, and through these guidelines, using a racial equity framework, ODEI will build a sustainable infrastructure, advancing the principles of diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility in the ways we recruit, retain, and develop, procure, and offer our services. The Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion addresses systematic inequities and disparities throughout Franklin County by developing and implementing changes in internal and external policy, practices, and procedures in support of our workforce and residents. We implement this work through our core principles, core actions that include workshops, training, seminars, and cultural climate surveys, assisting in internal and external policy development, recruitment and retention, and demonstrating support for outreach events with small and emerging businesses. Through ongoing efforts and training, we will cultivate an environment of dignity, respect, and belonging. The Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion team members are Marlise Ryan, Economic Equity Administrator, Leandra Tricuros, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Administrator, and Lydia Cleaver Bartholomew, a John Glenn intern serving as the Equity Data Analyst and will be with us until the end of the school year. As leaders of Franklin County's DEI initiatives, we strive to model and create the type of culture that is inclusive and cultivate a space of belonging. To effectively do this work, we participated in team building exercises facilitated by our DEI consultants, Raising the Bar Performance Group, to set the best office culture possible so that our goals and recommendations are inclusive and promote collaborative, transformational change. The team building exercises consisted of understanding our DISC styles, completion of a day in the life grid to evaluate our greatest contributions to our workplace, fears, and tools needed to effectively communicate with each other, and formation of the delegation cycle to agree on team expectations and accountability. I will now turn it over to Leandra Tricuros to discuss our accomplishments with the Racial Equity Council. Leandra.
Thank you, Damika, for the introduction. Good afternoon, Commissioners and County Administration. The Inaugural Racial Equity Council was comprised of representatives from each of the 14 Board of Commissioner agencies. Each representative was selected by agency directors and county administration and met biweekly to create an inclusive environment and promote diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI, within each agency. The Racial Equity Council, co-chaired by Bart Logan and with the assistance of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion consultant Courtney Kerrigan of Raising the Bar Performance Group, provided invaluable contributions to the important discussions of race and inequity and provided feedback for the future Racial Equity Council. The Racial Equity Council developed 11 recommendations to embed DEI into the fabric of Board of Commissioner agencies, such as reviewing, revising, and creating training, and evaluating external partnerships, and building in equity expectations. With these recommendations in mind, 91% of Board of Commissioner employees completed cultural competency and implicit bias training through Raising the Bar from June to September. I will now turn it over to Lydia to further discuss the 11th recommendation. Lydia.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Commissioners. The final recommendation of the Racial Equity Council challenged us to tell our story about how Franklin County is ingraining racial equity into operations and services. Based off of this recommendation, we have created a communication subcommittee that will work to create this content. Some of the ways in which the committee plans to tell our story include sharing information about DE&I metrics on the ODEI website and sending out educational content to Franklin County employees. I'll hand it back to Leandra now.
Thank you, Lydia. Racial Equity Council members provided an overall experience rating of 4.5 out of 5. The members shared that the collaboration with various county agencies created the opportunity to create a safe space for important discussions, as well as the ability to create recommendations that will move Franklin County forward. The members provided excellent suggestions for the future Racial Equity Council, such as continuing to share resources, providing monthly updates, and to have members sign a pledge of commitment. I will now turn it back to Damika to discuss the cultural climate audit.
Thank you, Leandra. The purpose of the cultural climate audit was to determine the Board of Commissioner employee readiness and perception of our organization's DEI practices. Raising the Bar Performance Group conducted the audit and analyzed the results. The 73-question cultural climate audit asked questions in the areas of cultural competence, cultural inclusivity, and structural accountability. The cultural climate audit was distributed to 1,274 Board of Commissioner agency staff members, and 54% completed the survey. As a result, the DEI maturity model provides a visual of our organization readiness in the areas of mindset, organization, and leadership. We would like to see DEI disrupting the norms of our organization and truly embedded in all aspects of BOC agencies. As you can see, the BOC mindset and organization is strategic, meaning respondents believe DEI is important to our organization, but have yet to experience DEI practices in their day-to-day work environments as it relates to some examples of having KPIs related to DEI or inclusiveness in the workplace. Our BOC leadership is compliant with DEI practices, meaning some leaders are not fully embedded or take on the responsibility of DEI. The cultural climate audit resulted in 16 additional recommendations that are aligned with Racial Equity Council recommendations and goals goals of the Rise Together Poverty Blueprint. Goal number 2, eliminating systematic class, racial, gender, and disability wage gaps in employment. Goal number 3, increasing access to relevant training for credentials that meet local demand with employer commitments to hire and promote. And goal number 4, improving and increasing the delivery of supportive services for individuals to access employment. I will now turn it over to Marlise Ryan, Economic Equity Administrator, to discuss our goals and accomplishments in economic equity. Marlise?
Thank you, Damika, and good afternoon. Small businesses are vital to our county and to the economy. We know that COVID-19 pandemic has wreaked havoc on many small enterprises. From customer demand have dropped in many sectors, and a forecast of recovery must include factors such as how our governments will react to future waves. As a result, OD&I is improving economic equity by setting forth these economic equity goals within Franklin County. Number 1, increasing supplier diversity among small, minority, disadvantaged, veteran, women, and LGBTQ+ enterprise businesses doing business with Franklin County. 2, expanding economic equity collaboration with community partners. 3, expanding collaboration with internal agencies and partners, such as economic development planning, to promote growth. And 4, enhancing employee performance goals to increase internal participation in economic equity initiatives. From this screen, our office held 3 coffee and conversations to hear from Board of Commissioner agencies about upcoming contracting opportunities and small businesses who have had an interest in doing business with Franklin County. This year's topics were women in leadership, how to submit a successful bid, and financial assistance to minority-owned small businesses. With over 250 participants attending these virtual events that were held quarterly with our partners from the Minority Business Assistance Center. As you're aware, construction is fully underway with the cooperation of the Construction Inclusion Team, Construction Management, Design Team, and the owner's representative, and the firm hard work of small and emerging businesses to reach the 12% aspirational goal. Currently, we have a firm commitment for the parking garage at 21% and phase 2 at almost 30%. Initiating internal relationships that result in greater knowledge about specific contract opportunity is a significant activity for small and emerging firms. In addition to connecting firms to key agency leaders, our office serves as a liaison to vendors to address their complaints, concerns, suggestions about the program, as well as continued collaboration with local partners to evaluate industry best practices and implement events that promote small business growth and development through Franklin County. Joining forces with various small business advocacy membership organizations helps convey and reinforce the Board of Commissioners' message about the value of economic inclusion and the importance of small and emerging business enterprises to our local economy. Our office is a member of several local membership organizations that promote small business growth and utilization, including WELD, Central Ohio African American Chamber of Commerce, Conference of Minority Transportation, National Association of Women Business Owners, and National Association of Women in Construction. In September 2021, the Commissioners approved a resolution with the Columbus Urban League for the COVID-19 Recovery Grant to small minority businesses. The Equity Fund opened on Friday the 8th with over 4,000 interest forms. There were over 1,000 in the first 24 hours. 90% of the businesses are Black, 2% are multiracial, just a little under 1% are Hispanic or Latino, and 6% of various other ethnicities. 51% of the firms who applied are male, and 48% are female. 67% have 1 to 0 employees, and zip codes in the 43219 and 43229 account for the most concentration of applications. Currently, there are over 2,000 completed applications. As we look to award procurement opportunities for small and emerging business for 2021, we look at 3 or 4 projects: the Franklin County Correction Center, the Adam H. Crisis Center, the Cooperative Residential Services, and Specialized Cleaning. Our office has created an electronic feedback form for vendors to complete after a bid has been awarded in order to improve our procurement process. OD&I will also collaborate with the purchasing agency to assist in improving ongoing training on policies and practices of internal procurement process as it relates to small businesses. On the next slide, we will discuss paid purchase orders for 2021. Each week you hear from me as I analyze the purchase order packages from over 35 agencies of purchase orders for goods and services that have a likelihood of participation by small and emerging businesses. Once POs are identified, the data is broken down as follows: total eligible purchase orders of dollar amount, the actual award to small and emerging businesses, percent of eligible purchase order value, and a percentage of eligible purchase order dollar value. Lydia will walk you through the actual spend of small and emerging businesses with the Board of Commissioner agencies in 2021. Lydia?
Thank you, Marlise. The chart on this slide breaks down purchase order numbers from January through October of 2021 by agency and by the type of SCBE certification, each of which corresponds to a color in the legend below. As you can see, the Office on Aging awarded the most POs to SCBEs with 833 during this time. General Services, Job and Family Services, and Public Facilities Management each also awarded over 500 POs to SCBEs. The total dollar amount of POs awarded during this time period are shown broken down by business type in the bottom right-hand corner of the slide. Minority business enterprises were awarded the highest dollar value of POs at $5.6 million, followed closely by small and emerging business enterprises and women business enterprises at $4.8 million and $4.5 million, respectively. I'll turn this back to Damika now to discuss ODEI's budget in more detail. Thank you.
Thank you, Marlise and Lydia. This year, the ODEI budget supported significant organizations that are working to increase diversity, equity, and inclusion in their efforts. Marlise mentioned the Impact Center, the Experience Columbus Diversity Apprenticeship Program, and the African American Male Wellness Agency. Looking ahead to 2022, we plan to continue our contract with the Raising the Bar Performance Group for the implementation of our DEI recommendations and goals, as well as add a new position to the DEI division. In alignment with the Racial Equity Council recommendations and Poverty Blueprint Goal number 2, action step to ensure all county departments and contracts are exemplary models of diverse hiring and promotion, the DEI program administrator will provide direct oversight of our County Futures program to address diverse recruitment in age, race, and gender identity, and also focus on retention by developing a program that will focus on the social determinants of health to help eliminate barriers to maintain employment. During our implementation of the recommendations and goals, we will develop an ODEI website that will include an ongoing dashboard of our activities, an annual report, and an ODEI conference. We will continue our efforts through our economic equity goals, focusing on our internal partnerships to increase supplier diversity and measure impact of our funding. In addition, we plan to continue to work with our Franklin County community partners, such as Franklin County Public Health, Adam H., Franklin County Children's Services, and a host of others, working together to build a community of DEI practices through the goals of the Franklin County DEI Hub, aligning with BOC infrastructure to address collectively data, operations, community outreach, HR best practices, and economic equity. We would like to take this opportunity to thank Board of Commissioners and County Administration in their support of our DEI efforts as we are building our Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. And at this time, we will answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
The only question I have is, do you feel, for everyone, thanks for the presentation. We value and appreciate the work that you're doing. It's critical to our value set as a BOC. Do you have everything you need in terms of, I know you're asking for the funding of a new position, but do you have everything you need in terms of additional programming, advertising for positions, the workshops, and then also I had to search for your budget in the general services budget. Do you have a standalone budget that we can look at?
Thank you for the question, President Boyce. At this time, we are still a part of general services. We do not have a standalone budget, and that is something that we are working on as we are building our ODEI division for budget year 2023. And right now we have been highly supported by even your offices and our county administration, Wilson and our deputy county administrators, and working collaboratively with all of our Board of Commissioner agency directors in communication, because this has been a collective work as we are working to build our DEI division. So right now, yes, we have what we need for advertisement, our collaborative efforts with Franklin County HR, and our continued work with everyone as part of the BOC family. Everyone has been very supportive and very communicative when reaching out and working to build our DEI efforts together.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I just Commissioner Raleigh, and I apologize if you could you talk about where you are as far as collaboration with other municipalities within Franklin County on the can you talk a little bit about collaboration and partnership?
Sure. Commissioner Qualley, I think you were asking about our collaboration and where we are with other municipalities. You were cutting out a little bit. I just want to make sure I heard your question correctly.
Darn it. Yes. I'm sorry. I'm going to try to, well, we're almost done, but yes, that was the question. I specifically asked because we talked briefly about like working with the city of Westerville, who just hired someone to do DE&I, and they're looking for being able to collaborate or be part of the Racial Equity Council. So yeah, could you talk about your efforts to collaborate with other municipalities and what that might look like and funding that might be necessary for that? And I apologize if you did cover it already and I just missed it because of my internet.
No. No, we did not. Thank you. Yes, and as we talked in our meeting, that is something that we are still working towards, setting up meetings and collaboration with other municipalities. We are working currently with other Franklin County organizations to help build what DEI practices, best practices would look like for Franklin County, and want to work to reach out to other municipalities as discussed with Westerville and other municipalities who are doing DEI practices. So we are well on our way of trying to work to set up meetings and figure out a framework of what that looks like.
Thank you. That's the only question I had.
Mhm.
If there are no other questions or comments from the commissioners or county administration, I'd like to thank Damika and her team for today's presentation. And that concludes today's budget hearings, as well as this year's budget hearings as well. We'll be planning the Office of Management and Budget, submitting the resolution for the 2022 appropriation measure for the December 14th agenda for the commissioner's consideration. Thank you very much for attending today's budget hearing, and we look forward to seeing you at briefing to go over the budget on December 9th.
Thank you.